The kid in the black Camaro couldn't have been more than 22. He cut me off so sharp at the gas pump I had to slam on the brakes of my old Dodge Ram, sending my toolbox sliding across the bed with a loud clang. He hopped out, all skin-tight black jeans and a leather jacket that looked too hot for a September morning. He had that arrogant swagger of a boy who's never been told no in his life. I rolled down my window. I'm not a confrontational man, but some things just violate the natural order. Hey, son, I was pulling in there. He glanced over, a smirk on his face, and didn't even break stride. Guess you gotta be quicker than that, Pops. Hops. The word hung in the air, thick and greasy like the diesel fumes. For a split second, I felt a tremor inside me, something hot and ancient, a flash of pure, unadulterated anger. My knuckles went white on the steering wheel. I could have gotten out. I'm not a big man, but I've spent 40 years hauling hives and lumber. I'm stronger than I look. But then I took a breath. I looked at his car, a pristine machine without a single scratch. I saw the vanity plate, RIKROX. I looked at him, preening by the pump, and I knew a fist fight would be a cheap, messy solution. No, this required something more elegant, a lesson, not a brawl. He didn't know it, but he had just poked the hive, and he was about to learn about the sting.
My name is Arthur Penhaligon. For 40 years, I've been a beekeeper. My father was a beekeeper before me, on this same plot of land, nestled up against the edge of the state forest. My hands are gnarled and calloused, stained with propolis and scarred from 1,000 forgotten stings. I live by the rhythm of the seasons, the bloom of the clover, and the hum of the hive. My life is quiet. It's orderly. Bees are my role models. They're creatures of purpose, of community. Every bee has a job. They work together for a common good. They are peaceful unless threatened. But if you threaten their home, their queen, they will respond with a singular, overwhelming focus. They don't get mad. They get even. They restore the balance. My truck, the Wanderer, is a 20-year-old Dodge. It's dented and scratched from navigating narrow dirt roads back to my apiaries. The interior smells faintly of beeswax and smoke. It's a tool, a partner. It's honest. That kid, Ricky, with his loud car and his cheap disrespect, was the opposite of everything I value. He was a chaotic intruder, a hornet buzzing around a calm garden. When he called me Pops, he wasn't just insulting me, he was insulting my way of life. He was dismissing a lifetime of quiet dedication, of patient work, in favor of his own loud, empty, fast existence. Most people see a bee and think of a sting. I see a miracle of engineering. I see a creature that contributes more than it takes. Ricky was the kind of person who takes and thinks that's his right. He thought his youth and his fast car gave him power. I was about to teach him what real power looks like. It's not loud. It's not shiny. It's the quiet, unified will of 50,000 tiny creatures working as one.
For the rest of the day, I couldn't shake it. The anger had subsided, but it left a residue, a fine powder of indignation that settled on everything. As I inspected my hives, the gentle hum that usually calmed me seemed to have an edge to it. The bees were more agitated than usual, mirroring my own inner state. "Easy, girls," I murmured, puffing a little smoke into a bustling frame. He's not worth the trouble. But he was. The more I thought about it, the more I realized it wasn't just about me. It was about the way the world was going. The erosion of simple courtesy, the celebration of the loud and the rude over the quiet and the competent. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that smirk. Too bad, Pops. I saw his Camaro twice over the next week. Once roaring down Main Street, its stereo rattling the windows of the hardware store. The second time, he was parked in the VIP spot right in front of the Roadhouse, the steak place that tries to be fancier than it is. The car was his throne. It was the source of his identity. It was polished to a mere shine. He clearly loved that car more than anything. And that's when I knew. You don't attack the man. You attack his throne. You don't use your fists. You use your head. You use the tools of your trade. I went into my workshop, the one my dad built with his own hands. On a high shelf, covered in a thin layer of dust, was a small wooden box. Inside were dozens of little glass vials. Most contained samples of honey from different seasons, but a few held something far more potent. I picked one up. The label, written in my father's neat script, read QMP Concentrated. Queen Mandibular Pheromone, the essence of the queen bee. It's the chemical signal that holds a hive together. It tells the workers she is healthy, she is present. To a bee, this scent is the most alluring, the most important smell in the world. It means home. It means purpose. It's a command. I held the small vial up to the light. It was a weapon of mass distraction. It wouldn't hurt anyone. It wouldn't cause any permanent damage, but it would orchestrate a spectacle of humiliation so perfect, so tailored to the crime, that it was a work of art. The plan began to form in my mind.
The decision was made. There was no rage left, only a cold, clear sense of purpose. I was no longer an angry old man. I was an artist preparing his canvas. My first step was reconnaissance. I knew Ricky liked the Roadhouse. I drove by a few evenings in a row, parking across the street, just watching. Sure enough, on Friday night, the black Camaro pulled into its usual spot right by the front door. Ricky got out, ran a hand through his hair, and swaggered inside. He'd be in there for hours trying to impress someone. This was my window. I went home and prepared my tools. Not a wrench or a hammer. I took out the vial of the QMP. I took a small cotton dauber, the kind my wife used for her watercolors. I also prepared a small nuke box, a miniature hive box with a single frame of bees and their new queen secured inside. It was my insurance policy, my mobile hive. I drove the Wanderer back to the Roadhouse and parked in a dark corner of the lot, a good 50 yards away from the entrance. The nuke box was in the truck bed, covered by a tarp. It was time. I walked calmly across the asphalt, my heart beating a steady, slow rhythm. No one paid any attention to the old man in the work jacket. I approached the gleaming black Camaro. It was almost beautiful in a sterile sort of way. I unscrewed the vial of QMP. The smell was faint to me, a little like almonds and cut grass, but I knew to a bee it would be a siren's call. With the cotton dauber, I carefully, delicately painted a tiny invisible film of the pheromone in 3 places, a light touch on the driver's side door handle, a little smear on the front grille right below the Chevy emblem, and the masterstroke,
a generous dab right on the cabin air intake vents at the base of the windshield. My work took less than 30 seconds. I walked back to my truck, my hands in my pockets, just another guy heading home.
For 20 minutes, nothing happened. The night was quiet. I sat in my truck, patient as a spider in its web. Then I saw it. A single bee, then two, landed on the hood of the Camaro. They crawled around, antennae twitching, clearly agitated and confused. They had found the source of the scent. They flew off, back towards my truck. They were about to tell the others. 5 minutes later, it began. It started as a low hum, a murmur. Then it grew. A small, dark cloud was moving from my truck bed across the parking lot. It wasn't an angry, attacking swarm. It was a curious, determined procession. They weren't looking for a fight. They were looking for their queen. The cloud descended upon the Camaro. Within minutes, the black paint began to disappear under a living, moving, shimmering blanket of gold and brown. They covered the hood, the roof, the windshield. A thick, writhing cluster formed around the driver's side door handle. Another group was trying to force its way into the air vents. The hum was now audible from where I sat, a deep, resonant B-flat of collective purpose. The show was about to begin. A couple leaving the restaurant stopped, dead in their tracks. The man pointed, his jaw slack. The woman pulled out her phone and started recording. Soon, a small crowd had gathered at a safe distance, murmuring, pointing, laughing. The commotion finally drew Ricky out. He strode out the front door, a girl on his arm, a smug look on his face. Then he saw the crowd. He saw them looking at his car. His smirk faltered. He pushed his way through the people, annoyance turning to confusion, and then to pure, unadulterated horror. "What the hell?" he stammered. His precious, perfect Camaro was gone. In its place was a pulsating, humming creature from a nightmare. "My car! Get off my car!" he yelled, as if they would listen. He took a step forward, then jumped back as a few bees broke from the pack and buzzed near his head. The girl he was with shrieked and ran back inside. Ricky was alone. He looked wildly around, his tough guy facade crumbling like a sandcastle in the tide. He looked at his car, then at the laughing crowd. He was trapped. He couldn't get in his car. He couldn't drive it away. He couldn't even touch it. He tried to wave them away, flapping his hands helplessly. The bees just hummed louder. The ultimate humiliation came when he dropped to the ground, trying to crawl under the front bumper to hide just to get away from the buzzing. The tough guy who drove a muscle car was now on his hands and knees hiding from it, not from a bigger man, but from a cloud of insects. The crowd roared with laughter. I started the engine of the Wanderer. My work here was done. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I drove past the scene. Ricky was still on the ground, yelling to someone to call the cops, his voice cracking with panic and shame. The lesson was complete. I heard the rest of the story a few days later from Jim, the plumber, down at the diner. The story was all over town. They had to call a tow truck to move the Camaro. The tow truck driver, a wit named Sal, apparently refused to hook it up until someone dealt with the bug problem. Eventually, some kid from animal control showed up and said they were just honeybees and would probably leave on their own by morning if you left them alone. Ricky apparently had a full-blown meltdown. He lost his car for the night, he lost his date, and most importantly, he lost his cool in front of 24 people. The vanity plate RIKROX was no longer a symbol of toughness. It was the punchline to the best joke the town had heard in years. No one knew how it happened. They called it a freak of nature, a 1 in a million thing.
I never saw the black Camaro parked in front of the roadhouse again. I saw it once, a few weeks later, driving well under the speed limit. The driver didn't look like a rock star anymore. He just looked like a kid in a car. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindictive. I felt balanced. The natural order had been restored. The loud had been quieted by the gentle. The arrogant had been humbled by the small. I didn't lay a finger on him. I just gave his disrespect a voice he could understand. The voice of the hive. Back in my apiary, I tended to the nuke box I'd used. The bees were calm again, going about their business. I gave them an extra bit of sugar water as a thank you. They'd performed beautifully.
My father used to say that you can learn everything you need to know about life from a beehive. There are workers, there are guards, there is the queen. And then there are the drones. The drones are loud. They're big. They don't gather nectar. They don't build the comb. They don't defend the hive. Their only job is to fly around, looking important. They consume the resources of the hive and contribute nothing of value. They are posture, without purpose. That kid, Ricky, was a drone. He mistook his loud engine for power and his youth for importance. He didn't understand that true strength isn't about how much noise you make. It's about what you build. It's about patience. It's about working with the quiet forces of nature, not against them. I didn't punish him. I just held up a mirror made of 50,000 tiny buzzing pieces. And in it, he saw himself for what he really was. Small, scared, and utterly powerless against a force he couldn't comprehend. Some people just need to learn that you don't poke the hive. Not because the bees are mean, but because they are organized. And there is nothing in this world more powerful than that.